Always a pleasure to catch up with our next guest. Of course, you know him from ESPN's MLB coverage as well as his podcast. He's just one of the best people there is in the world. He's the great Hall of Famer, Tim Kurkjian, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Tim, it's Glenn. It's great to catch up with you as always. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Well, my pleasure. How's everything?
Everything is all right, Tim. I think we've had a few days now to sort of marinate on the Orioles making this Grayson Rodriguez Taylor Ward trade, and I still can't tell you that I'm like super fired up about it at this point. You've had a few days to think about it and consider every aspect of it. What do you make of this being the kickoff to the Orioles offseason?
Yeah, it's a little confusing. I'm not in any way outraged on any level. Like, what are they doing? None of that. I mean, Taylor Ward can hit, and we saw all last year, and really down the stretch in 2024, this team didn't score enough runs, so they need more production, and Taylor Ward will give them that. But being a free agent at the end of 2026, and you're giving up a young arm that so many people are looking for these days, it's still a little confusing to me, because once you have a good young pitcher, you almost always keep him. But we all understand that Grayson Rodriguez gets hurt a lot, and maybe they looked at him and said, this might continue, and we cannot wait for him to get healthy and show us how great he can be.
Just specifically on Ward, because I've asked this of a few people that I've talked to so far. We know he hit 36 home runs a year ago and has sort of changed his approach to be more of the modern baseball player, true outcome type. But I mean, he had never hit more than 25 home runs in a season before that. Is he definitely the middle of the order bat the Orioles need? They tried to replace Anthony Santander with Tyler O'Neill. They still clearly hope O'Neill gives them something, but is Ward definitely that middle of the order bat at this point?
Yes, I think he is. As we know, Glenn, the beauty of baseball is the light goes on. Guys become better hitters at certain ages. You know, Paul O'Neill was a better hitter in his 30s than he was in his 20s. Raul Ibanez hit more homers in his 40s than he did in his 20s. So maybe Taylor Ward is one of these guys who has figured it out. The real power stroke a little bit later. I think he's a middle of the order hitter for a contending team. Now the question is he enough? I think they need to add another bat if they're going to run with Toronto, who's pretty darn good, which I think we just saw in the postseason. Boston's getting better, and the Yankees always have the resources to remain good. So I think they need another hitter, and then they have to, of course, go get another pitcher.
So let me bring that hitter aspect up, because the name that continues to be tied, and I don't like asking you about other people's reports, but I keep hearing people connect the Orioles to Kyle Tucker, and I understand the Mike Elias connection, but as you would understand, Tim, given the history of the Orioles and spending, until I see it, I'm always going to assume otherwise. Whether it's Tucker or not, where are you at with the idea that the Orioles might be truly changing their thought process in terms of spending money this offseason?
Yeah, I think they have to change their process, because when you have 3 really good years like they had in a row, and then you fall as quickly as you did last year, and as I said, the division is only getting stronger from here. You can't afford to just sit back for another year, because I think there are 3 teams in the division definitely better than the Orioles right now. So therefore, Kyle Tucker makes all the sense in the world, not just because he can hit the ball out of the ballpark, but he's a well above average defender. He can run. He's young. It's going to cost a fortune to get him, and they have to ask, is he worth that much? But if they're gonna run with the Blue Jays and the Yankees and the Red Sox in the next few years, I think they're gonna have to start to spend more now, which of course is easy for me to say. I'm not the owner of the team, but logically you have to think that way.
He is Tim Kurkjian, of course, from ESPN, and the host of Is This a Great Game or What? He's with us here on GCR. Tim, you bring up that, okay, so let's just say they spend all that money on Kyle Tucker. Well, then do they have money left to spend on pitching? And I think this is the kind of conundrum that we find ourselves in. Are they going to swim in the deepest end of the free agent pitching waters? Do you think it's more practical that they try to address pitching via trade the way that maybe they did with Corbin Burns a couple years ago? And, a lot of people talking about perhaps like the guys in Minnesota maybe being available via trade this offseason.
Yeah, well, Lopez with the Twins would be a really nice addition to the Orioles or to any team. Now, I'm not positive he's going to move, but he's really good. And yes, sometimes a trade is the better way to go, but let's face it, they've traded some of their young kids. I'm not sure they're in the same position to make a trade. So logically, why not just sign Dylan Cease or Framber Valdez or Ranger Suarez? Again, it's easy to say, why don't they just do that? Well, every other team wants those guys also.
Right.
So the competition is fierce, and if they really make a run at it and get one of those hitters or one of those pitchers, I think that will be a really good step forward. But I repeat, if they're going to be the team that can win the division next year, they got to go get a premium hitter and a premium pitcher for the top of the rotation.
Tim, the Orioles, I think, surprised a lot of people when they decided to tender a contract to Ryan Mountcastle last Friday. And I think a lot of us had kind of figured that they probably were going to choose to move on given his continuous downtick. And I wondered if that might be an insurance policy for the idea that maybe they view Coby Mayo as perhaps their most valuable commodity in a trade at this point. And I'm not trying to write off Coby Mayo because, he's only played a little bit at the major league level, and I think most everyone around baseball still believes he has that power bat. But do you think it's possible that the two things might be connected, the idea of tendering a contract to a disappointing Ryan Mountcastle, and maybe that's because they are considering the possibility of trading Coby Mayo to try to acquire a pitcher?
Yes, that certainly makes sense. Ryan Mountcastle had a down year, but he's still a major league player. He's got big-time power when he's right, and they have to hope that he finds that. Again, when you talk about, spending money, sometimes you just have to spend money on an extra year to see if a guy is going to find it, because he's been a pretty good player over the years. He just had a down year. So I think they're doing the right thing here by offering him a contract, but maybe it's exactly the way that you say, that Coby Mayo is the guy that's going to get him that frontline starting pitcher.
And it feels like he's the guy that has the most value right now of any of that group that isn't already here and obviously isn't already entrenched and guaranteed a spot. Do you feel like they're going to be – I think a lot of us were hoping that maybe there was going to be like a Suarez brothers situation in Baltimore with Robert Suarez, but now they're not even bringing back Albert. They didn't tender him a contract, so I don't know if that's the answer. What does your gut tell you about the closer market, as obviously the Orioles need to find someone with experience with Felix Bautista's sideline?
Right. Well, there's some closers out there. Edwin Diaz is out there. A few others are out there. But, again, they come at a really expensive rate. I mean, even though relief pitching is still exceptionally important these days, given how little we use our starting pitchers. So, the Orioles have to add a back of the bullpen guy who they are relatively certain is going to get 3 outs in the 9th inning. And that guy is not easy to find. The things they're looking for are not easy to find, and if you do find them, they're going to be exceptionally expensive.
Yeah, it'd be nice if what they were looking for was like a nice middle reliever, right? Like that's the market that you want to be in. That's where you want the difference to be when you're trying to close the gap. Tim, it feels like, there's been, you and I talked this past season about where Mike Elias is. Mike Elias was sort of secretly promoted within the organization, where a lot of us were talking about whether or not perhaps Mike Elias's job was in jeopardy. Do you feel like this season that spotlight is fully on Mike Elias at this point, or do you feel like he's simply entrenched in the faith that David Rubenstein and that group has in him, that they're not judging him year to year by results?
I think he's got more than this year to prove things, but there has to be significant progress shown this year if they're going to feel really good moving forward for several more years. Again, that was a dramatic fall, and I repeat, they are behind the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are not going away, not with the way that they play the game. The Red Sox, young guys are getting a little older and a lot better. And again, the Yankees have every resource it takes to say, all right, we're going back to the World Series. They'll do whatever they need to do. So I think Mike Elias, I'm not going to say he's under the gun, but I think the microscope is a little bit brighter on him just because of what happened last year. When something that stunning happens that nobody saw coming, sure, it almost always goes on the GM, especially when you replace the manager and go from there.
Is the feeling around baseball that that core group of talent is still desirable? It is still the group that you want, that you can count on? Like I feel like it's so much of the story as to what happens this season, Tim. For as much as we talk about whatever they're going to still do this offseason, it is important, it still feels like none of this works if you don't get better versions of Adley Rutschman and even Gunnar, who we still think is a very high-level player, but certainly wasn't an MVP caliber player a year ago, and Jackson Holliday and a healthy Jordan Westberg. Like, is there still faith that this group is that group and that they can do it at this point?
Yes, I think there still should be faith. I think Jackson Holliday showed us last year that the best is yet to come. He made a major step forward, at least in the games or the things that I saw. Gunnar Henderson's a great player, and he just didn't have a great year. But when you're that big and you're that young and you're that driven, he's going to figure out exactly why he wasn't an MVP candidate last year. So I think that, and Jordan Westberg is just a grinder, dirt dog, baseball lifer. I love the way he plays the game. So as long as he stays healthy, I think he'll produce. Adley Rutschman is still the guy that I'm still a little bit confused about, because we all know, second half of 2024, what happened. I expected a completely different Adley Rutschman at the plate in 2025, and it didn't happen. And injuries were a big reason why. And again, this is the hardest game in the world to play, and I'm giving all sorts of people another chance and another chance to figure it out. Because when you're facing this kind of stuff every day and something is off, just a tick here and there, you go from a really good player to a very average player very quickly. That's how the stuff changes hitters today. But I expect him to have a bounce back year and be really good again. But those four aren't going to be enough to carry this team. I still think they need another hitter, a Kyle Tucker type who can add to the middle of the order.
No, I agree. And last thought, Tim, would be I brought it up with Mike Elias. He was dismissive of it. And look, we all know that catchers are who becomes managers, but a lot was made about the work that Craig Albernaz had done with Naylor in Cleveland. Do you feel like maybe there's a thought within the Orioles that, like, Craig Albernaz is here in part because we need someone that can be almost an Adley Rutschman whisperer? Like, we need someone that we got to fix this guy somehow.
Yeah, and yes, familiarity really matters in baseball, and I'm a big believer that when a manager has had a guy before and he knows the button to push on that guy to get the best out of him, I believe in that stuff. But the Orioles have two catchers right now. They don't need to go get another catcher
no doubt,
to see if they got the right people. So I think they hang on to what they have. They hope that Adley finds whatever he lost a year and a half ago. I think he will. And but Naylor in Cleveland is a good player, and with familiarity, wouldn't be surprised if down the line something happens, but I don't see that happening this year.
Is this a great game or what? You want to remind everybody about what they're missing?
Yeah, it's really a lot of fun. It's my son Jeff and I. We do a podcast. We laugh and we learn. No heavy lifting. No, we're not breaking any stories. No hot takes. But we hopefully we teach people a few things. We get some great interviews. We've had some incredible people on, in the last couple of years, Cal Ripken a couple times, Jim Palmer, and those guys are right up my alley. And we're not asking Cal Ripken about the streak because he's talked about that a million times. We asked him last time he dunked a basketball. Now he's engaged. So that's how we're doing things on our podcast. It's been a dream of a lifetime for old Pop here to get to work with his son on a really fun project.
He told me recently he stopped playing altogether. As someone who went up against him, do you actually believe that?
I believe that because I know Cal Ripken exceptionally well, and if he can't excel at
then
something,
he's not. Yeah,
he's not going to do it. And on my tiny level, I understand exactly what he's talking about. When you've reached a certain level, he was a great pickup basketball player, not a good one. He turned himself into a great one. And if he can't do that anymore, I think he'd rather go try something else, which whatever he tries, he's going to be good at because that's him.
That is the way it works. GreatGamerWhat.com, of course, is the website to find the show. Tim Kurkjian, always appreciate you, sir. Thanks for spending a couple of minutes with us today.
My pleasure, Glenn. Thank you.